What do you need?
Just trying to get access to my trackers.
It does. Is that on? It's
Is
live,
it on?
yeah.
You sure?
Yep. I was just informed. It's not on now. Turn the, yeah. Wait, what's the poem? Alice, are you somebody? There's some poem. You know, once they stop working, why do they hang around? You and I have removed it. There's two.
Yeah, can we try shaking the screen? No, yeah,
I mean, if you collect enough of them, they're musical instruments, right?
I'm sucking the glass warm out of you instead of pouring the glass. I said you didn't use it.
Yes, sorry.
I just want to make sure we have it.
Do we need to close the door so that it doesn't blow away as that's happening? Do you feel confident it will not blow?
I do not feel confident that it will not close. Are you going to use this one? Are there three copies of music?
There are 3 copies of music.
Because if I put this like this, then I can just do it from here.
From there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the last thing. Okay, and then I would love to try like paper clip that or something.
We're gonna get. Okay. The door, we were worried that the music would blow from the piano, so I thought I'd just close it for now. We can open it up.
Well, we don't have Jacqueline yet, so.
Oh. Well, maybe I'm going to go because I actually have lots to say. And then we'll put the prelude as an interlude.
Hey. Just give that signal.
We are in the land of humid matches, and I would love to have somebody offer to light chalice for me and candles if there's anybody who feels confident that they can make fire out of humidity. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
As we kindle our flames, let us remember what it means to see the message of fire. I am paraphrasing Rebecca Parker. Like Moses and his burning bush, the bush that says from within, now you must go back to Egypt, where I have seen my people in their travail, and you must lead them to freedom. Moses, who wanted to find anyone else to do the work. Probably my brother Aaron would be better. Let us remember as we set this symbol on fire what the ancient story tells us. Once you have seen the bush on fire, once you have seen the beauty, you only have two choices. You either have to close your eyes to the beauty, or you have to go back to Egypt and set the people free. Our opening song this morning is just a refrain. It's from the Silver Zion Memorial Orchestra, and the words go, when the world is sick, can't no one be well, but I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. Try that. When the world is sick, can't no one be well, but I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. Let's sink into that. When the world is sick, can no one be well, but I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. When the world is sick, can no one be well, but I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. I've been inviting us this week to explore the song from the Last Words Blessing. And so this is our final time to experience what we could glean from that. So if you will indulge, we will return to it. Enter the wild with care, my love, and speak the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. And even as you travel far from heather, crag, and river, may you, like the little fisher, set the stream alight with glitter. May you enter now as otter, without falter, into water. Look to the sky with care, my love, and speak the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. And even as you journey on, past dying stars exploding, like the gilded one in flight, leave your little gifts of light. And in the dead of night, my darling, find the gleaming eye of starling, like the little aviator. Sing your heart to all dark matter. Walk through the world with care, my love, and sing the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. And even as you stumble through Macher sands eroding, let the fern unfurl your grieving. Let the heron still your breathing. Let the selkie swim you deeper. Oh, my little silver seeker, even as the hour grows bleaker, be the singer and the speaker. And in city and in forest, let the larks become your chorus. And when every hope is gone, let the raven call you home. Last spring, as we entered into a surprise time of isolation, Orion Magazine commissioned a series of conversations, a sort of public eavesdropping on the back and forth between unique thinkers, authors and scientists and artists, as they examined their experience of staying connected while staying apart. So throughout our service today, throughout my sermon today, I will share some snippets of one conversation that took place between two friends, Kathleen Dean Moore and Hank Lentfer. Moore lives and writes in Oregon and focuses her work on what she says is our moral and spiritual connection to wild places. For years, she has spent part of every year in a seasonal cabin in southeast Alaska, described as a place where 2 creeks and a bear trail meet a cove. Last year, she had to stay home in Oregon. Hank Lenfert lives on the banks of a small stream on the edge of a tiny town in southeast Alaska, and he is a sound recordist and writer, and he takes recording equipment out into the wilds and collects natural sounds. May 12th, 2020. Dear Kathy, woke up at 3:30 a.m. and went out to listen. The neighbors were all up singing their hearts out. In a pine near the fire pit, a robin sang at peak ferocity. The willow west of the garden is home for a Lincoln's sparrow again. I wonder if it's the same bird as last year. The juncos were quiet, busy hauling bugs to their chicks. The orange-crowned and butterbutt warblers gleamed tiny insects from the willow catkins. Just like that. Come on in. So long as you didn't blow off, you're good. Come in, come in, come in. We have a place for you. Across the meadow, a sapsucker rattled away on Paul and Chris's chimney cap. If I wasn't in quarantine, I'd have gone over for another cup of coffee. No way they're sleeping through that racket. And back in the woods, a few Townsend's warblers squeaked from high in the spruce, and a Pacific wren chortled from the creek. I wish I could say that I settled into the morning's peace, but I couldn't get there. I felt like I was standing on the bank of a stream just a tad too wide to leap across. On the other side was a familiar and welcome joy, but I was stuck, heavy and flat-footed and pinned by the weight of the news. There are fewer birds in the meadow. We haven't lost any species yet, but the chorus is diminished. There are fewer individual singers. Second-guessing my ears, I pull up recordings from just 5 years ago, and there, streaming through the headphones, is the full-throated, melodious roar of a vibrant dawn chorus. We might have missed it this morning. There was a vibrant dawn chorus of seagulls this morning, certainly, and I heard them. It's one thing to read the reports about millions of neotropical migrants gone missing, but it's something altogether different to listen as the sun rises on a world spinning towards silence. But of course, there is no silence. The chorus of creatures is replaced by the cacophony of combusting carbon. Run a chainsaw in a cathedral, and you might not notice when half the choir slips out the back. Kathy, I'm tired. I'm bone-weary with the parade of worn-out white men lacking even a bit of wisdom, presenting themselves as leaders. But even if we somehow replaced corporate cronyism with a representative democracy and filled the Senate chambers with the balance of genders and diversity of skin tones, there still would be no thrushes singing beneath the Capitol dome. Imagine where we might end up if our leaders each day immersed in the splendid simplicity of voices far removed from the echo chamber of human speech. Hank, let's interlude, shall we? Are you comfortable now?
Yeah.
Okay.
This piece is by George B.J. Campbell, and poor Jacqueline has read it once.
Fabulous, Jacqueline.
She is fabulous, Jacqueline. She is playing the sound of an orchestra. Jason is playing the sound of a trumpet. And I will be singing the words, "Eternal source of light divine." And for the purposes of this service, we are singing to the sun. Oh
glad that was an interlude. Would have been challenging to sing after that. On March 26th, a friend shared a link to a website called istheshipstillstuck.com. For several days following, if you clicked the link, it just said yes. And then it gave a dollar amount for how much the stuck ship had cost us thus far. So if you go there now, it says no. It was stuck for 6 days, 3 hours, and 38 minutes. It probably cost us $59 billion. $59 billion. It's intriguing that we live in an age when that ship is widely known. If you weren't following the drama, that ship was the Ever Given, an enormous cargo ship that could hold 20,000 shipping containers that had somehow gotten itself stuck crosswise in the Suez Canal. Intriguing also to ask the obvious question, what do you mean us? Who is the we that lost so much money? What the blockage exposed was something that was meant to be kept hidden with regard to capital and consumption. That the system of consumption is predicated on our not seeing the distance between us and what we consume. It took a spanner in the works to expose that truth to more people, to force them to confront the enormous system that is moving cargo across the planet at the detriment to some, the enrichment of others, and the short-term happiness for those who become end consumers. It's got me thinking on a parenting tool that we've used, one that my daughter is completely onto. With a well-meant desire to teach her that she has autonomy in her life, we offer her a choice from a limited set of offerings, X or Y. And she caught on quickly. Initially, she would say X and Y, and then she realized that the choice she was given was no choice at all. This is what I have been feeling about the choices we are facing when it comes to some of the most persistent and challenging problems of our time: climate and racial inequity, white supremacism. We're presented with binaries and told that we must decide between rampant crime on the streets or conscientious policing. Here's a new favorite. So that we don't have to ever stop consuming finite resources, we are told that we can leave the planet. Or, that's actually it. We can leave the planet. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk believe wholeheartedly that the solution to rampant consumption of finite resources is literally to leave the planet. To mine heavy metals from Mars, to live in space colonies and make occasional forays to terra firma, to experience atmosphere for a bit before returning from our life on Earth to, as it were, the heavens. We can go ahead and destroy our world, abandon it, and then inhabit another one. Is this the life after death of which the theologians speak? It is not a choice that I want to make, but because of the drastic differential between my ability to influence the world and Jeff Bezos's, it may be the choice that is made for me. Because democracy in a world that prizes capital above all else is no democracy at all. In part because not everyone gets a seat at the table, not all beings, certainly, not even all people, with the decisions of the world so heavily tilted toward capital. May 13th, 2020, Dear Hank, it feels good to hear from you, like a blast of honest Alaska air, all full of hemlock and sea salt. I've been going out early in the mornings too, listening for birds in my trimmed, tree-lined neighborhood on College Hill. The birds and I are getting used to the COVID-19 lockdown. The birds are acting like humans, jays playing their music too loud, crows strutting down the middle of the street, warblers wearing ostentatious colors, robins acting like they own the place. As for me, I am acting like a bird. I mostly hide out in my house behind the bushes and dart out only now and then to find something to eat. I am afraid of human contact, so I flutter across the street or around a tree to avoid joggers, knowing that even their breath could kill me. There's a decent chance that more of us will sicken and die now, poisoned by human recklessness and political stupidity, as birds have been for decades. Honestly, this pandemic should make us a lot more empathetic toward the birds. Populations of songbirds have dropped 30% since I started watching birds. Imagine 1 out of every 3 songbirds starved or poisoned or driven out of their homeland or smacked by a high-rise window or never born. Maybe now we can stop to wonder how that feels. But here I am in a human pandemic and I'm mourning the birds. Some might think I'm a monster, but it's not just about the birds. Remember our friend Scott Russell Sanders quoting the Trappist monk Thomas Merton? Someone will say, you care about birds, why not worry about people? I worry about both birds and people. We are in the world and part of it, and we are destroying everything because we are destroying ourselves, spiritually, morally, and in every way, and it is all part of the same sickness. I think so too. For a long time, we've all known that something is terribly wrong with the drained marshes and melting Arctic plains, with the homeless camps and immigrant camps and prison camps, and the poisoned strawberry fields and brown city air. It's a spreading soul sickness, and it's choking me. So Frank and I are heading out now on our daily search for red-winged blackbirds. Do you remember the flocks of redwings that descended on the marshes at the end of the day, checking and okaling? That's what I want to find again. I want to sit at the edge of a marsh in a confetti cacophony of bird calls that never stops, ever. These days, we usually find a couple of blackbirds swaying on cattails in the center of a marsh. No flocks so far. I don't know how soon I will give up and ask you to send me a recording. Take good care, my friend. Kathy. So I live, let's face it, in a place that can be rather ridiculous. Martha's Vineyard, a summer playground of privilege and prep. And one day, a few summers ago, I was sitting looking out over the Edgartown harbor, and as I watched, a boat went by, chugging out toward the open ocean with a 16 by 12 foot enormous pink inflatable flamingo float tied to its cabin. That was its size. I looked it up. It weighs almost 50 pounds and it can hold 6 to 7 adult humans. You can purchase your own on Amazon if you want to help Jeff Bezos get to space. Though, buyer beware, the reviewers there say that it's cheaper elsewhere. Also, according to one reviewer, they are very hard to steer. Had fun, but do not think you're going to get a second or third use without issues. We just decapitated it and trashed it before coming home. Maybe this is not news to you, but I feel it needs to be said. We are living in a world of single-use 50-pound giant inflatable plastic flamingos. Once you have seen the bush on fire. I'd like to gloss really quickly a pretty important story from Christian scripture. So you might have heard of it. It's about this Roman crucifixion of a 30-something itinerant preacher who had an annoying habit of speaking truth to the powers that be. So there's this big religious festival. It happens every year, and at that festival, it was the governor's custom to release to the crowd one prisoner, whoever they wished. Let's name this what this is, a false choice and a form of gaslighting. See my mercy. I will only kill one person today. Both the offer of mercy and the crucifixion punishment are ways to claim and maintain power. And so the Roman leader offers the people a choice. Who do you want me to release? This dude over here or this dude over here who you're saying good things about? Is it a real choice? It's a choice contained within empire. The mob is offered a scrap from a pre-established container, X or Y. The ruse is that option of democratic choice. And then the other source of power within that cultural world makes itself complicit. It is said that the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowds that they should ask for Barabbas and should destroy Jesus, the other guy. Those with moral authority putting their hands on the scales of justice to achieve their desired end, that this rabble-rouser should get out of their hair. Which, of course, allows the Romans to wash their hands of the decision. I didn't do this. This was you. Even though he set up the false choice, even though both sides of this coin reinforced the same power. Enter the wild with care, my love, and speak the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. Do you remember that it got quiet? Do you remember last spring when humans stayed inside and the animals emerged? Do you remember the promises that you made to yourself, that we made to ourselves, that when this was over, we would not go back, that we could not go back, that this was our chance to step away from the disturbing choices offered to those with privilege in late-stage capitalism, to ask more questions about how and why we are engaged in consumption at the level that we are? Do you remember the turning inward when we were entering the smelting furnace and forced by a virus to melt down the exhausting schedules of our lives into only the most essential activities? When we began to figure out just how much dross we were carrying within the precious metals of our precious, precious lives? Have we kept the lessons we told ourselves we'd never forget? Have we allowed ourselves to be changed by this collective experience of loss and longing and loneliness and grief? The fifth principle of Unitarian Universalism claims that we affirm the right of conscience and the use of a democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. And to this I say, a commitment to democracy can only exist if we are allowed access to all the questions, not just the questions we get asked after we've established as an unquestionable given global markets and consumerism. We can choose who will lead us, but we cannot choose through the ballot box whether to allow single-use 50-pound giant inflatable plastic flamingos. Is democracy actually available to us within a world of unfettered capitalism and an economy predicated on unlimited consumption of finite resources? Especially when, as we know, neither those who don't possess economic privilege nor non-human species have that seat at the table. There are no thrushes in the Capitol dome. So when Jesus is executed, rather like the slamming on of brakes within the global supply chain when the Suez Canal is stoppered up, something previously hidden came to light. What gets passed down to us today is this word, resurrection, which our rational, scientific, skeptical brains get pretty stuck up on. But we know something now, don't we, of what it means to come back to life? Isn't that what we've been figuring out over the last 18 months? For the followers of Jesus, what resurrection forced them to do was to see and to take in and to be transformed by their knowledge of what had been going on all along, to see, to finally see. And that now they, without their leader, had to find within them the capacity to push back against the systems of power and oppression with greater internalized awareness of that leverage against oppressive power found within radical love. Within this reading of the story, Jesus' death is a supply chain blockage, a global pandemic, a necessary breach from life as normal, because without it, we have no impetus to question the status quo. Why question what works, especially if my privilege insulates me from the mechanisms through which it works? Why follow with heart and soul and proud witness a teaching while the teacher, who says it better, remains to act as a constant corrective? Only when the teacher is gone can the followers figure out what part of the teaching lives in them, what part of the teaching can find life after death. May 14th, 2020, Dear Kathy, cloudy this morning, but still and quiet, perfect recording. The Lincoln sparrow sang with gusto over a backdrop of humming bees needing pollen from the willow catkins. Sparrow song loud in my headphones. I thought of my friend Richard Nelson. I miss my sound-chasing buddy. This is the first spring in years we've not joined forces to expand our library of wild voices. Nels listened to the world with a contagious joy. He was an ear with legs and found such delight in learning the languages of other cultures and creatures. Last night, after reading your letter, I picked up his book, Shadow of the Hunter. I turned to a line in the introduction. It is always difficult to know where the trail is leading, but the difficulty is eased somewhat by knowing where it began. Hopefully, a vaccine will soon tame this virus. It will be a joyful day when we can come out of our homes and hug each other. But as long as we see ourselves as individuals, isolated from other creatures, we will remain committed to an economy divorced from ecology, still guided by a spirituality devoid of sparrow song. And this pandemic is but a breeze compared to the coming storm. How do we vaccinate against the deadly delusion that we can mistreat the earth and not hurt ourselves? I believe the rivers of our senses flow with a potent wisdom. Imagine the most exquisite thing you've ever experienced, the gilded feathers of a hummingbird's throat, the scent of a bog orchid at sunrise, the drifting notes of a hermit thrush through tent walls. Now imagine moving through your days with the strength of knowing that you are every bit as beautiful as the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. Could this blurring of boundaries be the vaccination we so desperately need? I'm sorry you and Frank aren't going to get to Alaska this summer. No cruise ships, few planes, no charter boats. This will be the quietest summer of our lives. What stories emerge when the human din is dialed down? Blessings, Hank. The story of resurrection sometimes acts as a dividing line between believers and non-believers, between atheists and not. And there are many, including devout followers of Jesus, ministers in mainline Christian churches who have no patience for the story of a literal resurrection. We need to know this. We have this assumption that people who are Christians somehow believe in these mysteries of supernaturalism. It's not true. Not for all of them. But there are limited choices that we are given. Either he ascended into heavens or he didn't. And those limited choices lead us astray from the deeper truths. Something happened that day at the tomb, certainly. And I'd suggest that it's not at all controversial to suggest that it actually happened to his followers, not to him. After the murder of their teacher, Jesus' followers went into hiding, and then they came back out into the world. And they strengthened their resolve, and they found inner resources within them that allowed them to carry a controversial message with them out into a far-flung world. Something in them was released, something was liberated. Is that not also a life after death? Grieving and wounded and seeking solace from one another for their pain, they come back out from their sorrow and they discover a way to live again in a new way, a way to live more fully with a stronger sense of mission and purpose, embodying a message that used to live solely in their teacher. Once you have seen the bush on fire, once you have seen the beauty, you only have two choices. You either have to close your eyes to the beauty, or you have to go back to Egypt and set the people free. had another option. They could have returned to what they used to be. They could have given their political power back to Rome and their spiritual power back to the Pharisees. It's not uncommon that when a charismatic leader dies, those left behind wallow in confusion and disband in community. Or they might have picked up arms, the swords that Jesus told them to put down on the night of his arrest. They might have allowed their grief to transform into anger. Also, not an uncommon reaction. As Judith Butler says, the destructive acts born of unbearable grief are perhaps premised on the thought that with this loss, everything is already destroyed. So destroying becomes a redundancy. We know the contours of this terrible circle, destroying to stop unbearable grief, to bring an end to the unbearable, only to then redouble that loss by destroying again. What Jesus' followers did is the story of the resurrection. They incorporated his message. They ate it like bread and drank it like wine, and they fed on it until it was their message completely, and they brought it to life again, and through them, Rome had no leverage against that resurrection. We have to do the same. If our choices are to matter, they cannot be the limited choices offered to us by those eager to maintain dominance, by a system determined to control happiness, by suggesting that we must consume until we have achieved it, because we will never achieve it. May 17th, 2020, dear Hank. Hermit thrushes whistling from the woods, sapsuckers whapping at the chimney, all this lusty chorus in Alaska, and you with a cup of coffee by the creek. Wonderful to think of what your open-hearted listening can bring. Maybe deep listening brings the kind of joy a bell would feel, hard bronze struck and transformed into shivering song. Out there in the wilderness before dawn, you are like a cold bell waiting for the clapper. I get it. A bell swaying on its bell yoke, ringing out again and again, shaking the air, becomes the music itself, beautiful and echoing. Imagine the joy of that bell. But I want to say that deep listening can bring deep understanding. And maybe this is its most dazzling gift. Nature already knows what we can only glancingly comprehend. Nature knows that all flourishing is mutual, as our friend Robin Kimmerer said. In ancient, complexly evolved relationships, plants and animals, including people, depend on each other and give their essential gifts with a generosity we have yet to fully recognize. Nature knows redemption. Much can be forgiven once we take our heavy boot off the neck of the natural world. Nature knows resilience. Short of killing him, can you keep a thrush from singing? Can you stop the moss from growing in the road? Nothing short of poison will keep the sweet bracken ferns from filling the meadows or cattails from spreading across the pond. If we listen, what is nature whispering to us about how to recover and how to live? I will think of you and your daughter, Linnea, in your skiff amongst the glaciers. I will think of your thrush. I will hold you in all my heart. Someday, Frank and I will sit with you again by a small fire on a pebble beach. Kathy. I will share a way that my heart has been broken here this week. By hearing the points of pride that people have shared regarding their unwillingness to be moved. We know the bush is on fire. We knew it before last March, and maybe within our lives, our lifetimes, we have always known it. Can we let ourselves take the action it demands of us? To turn our backs on the false choices we have been offered, to do the hard, painful, impossible, but we must try work of naming what is broken, of allowing ourselves to be moved. not to confuse dispassionate, philosophical, rational discourse with the words, the only words that may possibly have the capacity to change the course of our world, to bring about a resurrection. May it be so. I invite us to sing, and there are words around us somewhere. There are words underneath the hand sanitizer there if you came in late. There are words in your general vicinity. You may have heard this before, and I think there are enough of us in the space that know it that we can just sort of get going with it, I hope. The song is We Shall Be Known by Mamuse. It goes like this. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. One more time, but I invite you to do some harmonies if you feel them. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive in this great turning. We shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. Once you have seen the bush on fire, once you have seen the beauty, you only have two choices. You either have to close your eyes to the beauty, or you have to go back to Egypt and set the people free.
About 10 years ago, when there was a hole underneath the Gulf of Mexico, and there was stuff pouring out of it, and my life had stuff pouring out of it. I went onto a mountaintop in Missouri, and I was quiet for 3 days, listening to the birds. And when I came back down, I met with a friend who's a harp player, a healing harp player. I said, Amy, it's time to sing some music. And she said, what'll we sing? And I said, I don't know. So we got together and pressed record. And we recorded about an hour's worth of music that just didn't feel finished. We released it, but it just had this very intense story to it. I had the hardest time with the sounds that I was making during my cry from the abyss, where I really actually went there, into what it is like to be the hole under the ocean that is killing the earth. And after we went there, she looked at me and said, okay, where do we go next? And I said, well, we go back to the innocence. We go back to what it was like before that happened. And we recorded this, and in honor of the fact that all of us had to make music at home with recorded devices, I'm going to subject you now to listening to the recording as I sing it live for you, okay? But Amy can't be here. She lives very far away. So Amy's going to play what she improvised via that speaker, and I'm going to sing what I improvised via myself. If it will work. Let's see. No, that's not the one. This one. Okay. And it's about 4 minutes long, if it will play. And if it won't, I will sing with you for you what I remember. Interesting. Hey. Yay. Oh, sparkle, sparkle. I hate making music through technology. It really drives me nuts. Hooray for all the acoustic music in the world. Please try one more time, honey, because I would really love to channel this again. Please go. Okay. I love you all. I'll just sing a little bit of it.
want you to know that. And I'm going to stay here and listen to this harp for a little while longer. It's 9:20. I want you to know that. And I'm going to stay here and listen to this harp for a little while longer. You're welcome to stay with me, or you're welcome to depart because we have things to do down there.
Before we go, I want to give huge, huge love for Evan, to Janet, for being us this week. It was so amazing.
It was a very deep blessing for me to be able to worship with you this week in this way. And gratitude to all of the musicians who improvised, joined in as could be.
Just be aware, when you open this door, it will be yanked right out of your hand. Dan, can you grab my big backpack?
Yeah, dude. I really have the was the time we did it here. Yeah. They have talent.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we got lots of open spots.
I've been wearing masks all week. I am worried. Yeah.
Just as much taken with how the energy was flowing through you. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. It really is. Just be there. You did. That's it really did come out very honest and underplaced myself tonight. I actually did. Thank you very much. There for a second. Thanks to Janet having